Boom, boom, boom. It's the kid, 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 it's the kid. Welcome to Womb. Now, guys, we're very sorry. We know that you should have had an episode last week, and the episode, of course, was Shawshank Redemption. But because I think I was maybe half asleep or a quarter asleep when that happened, my mic recording was really bad. And I just felt that based on how important this film is and how many people have been telling me that they want us to talk about this film, I just felt it was right, because these are recordings that will just pretty much be around and there forever, fully archived. The recording has to be crisp. So we are recording this again, and I am thankful to my dear man. Wait, so your name is Basil?
Look, for now, until we can figure out something better, my name is Basil.
So why can't I use your real name?
Well,
or your last name, because your last name is actually sounds
no, because it's just lazy.
Aka! Okay. All right. No, look, that sounds better. Okay.
So yeah, we're going to be pretending that we're speaking about this for the first time.
Yep, because that's what we do. So, Shawshank Redemption. Now,
welcome to Shawshank.
This is a film that's, before the whole Dark Knight thing, I think it was either this or Godfather 2. They're the most high-rated films on IMDb. And my thing about it was, it's a fascinating film because, okay, when people say, okay, like, you know, Godfather 1, you talk about Brando, Pacino's performance, and we are going to get into Godfather 1 and 2. Michael Corleone. So you could just tell because it's very extravagant. But when you look at, and it's very complex, you know, with the characters, the family elements, especially when you go to Godfather 2, when they go to the past. With Shawshank Redemption, at the very surface, it's a jailbreak movie. It's Escape from Alcatraz. You know, it's Escape Plan. It's what's it called? Total Recall.
Wait, is Papillon about a jailbreak?
Easy. I haven't touched it in Papillon.
I don't.
So, so it's such a simple film and such a simple story, and I think that is the beauty of the film. That how can such a simple story have such a profound effect on literally everybody? Almost every single person that I've met or I've talked to has said, "Now, Shawshank Redemption is an amazing film. It's an amazing film. It's an amazing film. This is like one of the greatest films ever." So,
yeah. Sorry, don't let me interrupt you.
Oh, no, go. Yeah, because I think so. Really, what we're trying to investigate here is how can you have such a simple story at its core, a very simple story that doesn't take you to different countries, doesn't take you to the past, and
has no women. Maybe that's why it's so good. Am I right?
Yeah.
Am I right?
Look, man. Hashtag me. It's just easy. Okay, we're trying to get that check, man. We're trying to cut that check. Okay, easy.
Yeah, that was a joke, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're trying to investigate, like, what is it that makes this film work so well, when really there isn't that much actually that seems that special about it on the surface.
No, yes.
There's actual synopsis. How do you even like give an interesting synopsis to it? It's a film about a guy who goes to jail and then he.
Okay. Basically, literally,
he's good with numbers.
Yeah, but if I talk, if I the story, okay, what is the story? Guy wrongfully convicted, gets put into jail, maybe affects the people in jail, but because he's positive and is a bit different there, and he then learns in jail that he can actually prove that he was wrongfully convicted, but that gets messed up and that gets screwed over, and then he then eventually finds a way to basically break out. That is pretty much the story. So if you told that to anybody and a producer, they literally threw you out the window and you'll never walk again in Hollywood and say, please.
Sorry, I thought you said you'll never walk again. You'll literally he'll throw you out of a window and you'll never walk again.
No, you'll never walk
because your legs will be broken.
The German accent makes it very hard to decipher between walk and walk, because we say it's the same. So, but look, man, I think first of all, let's start off first with Tim Robbins.
Tall drink of water with a silver spoon up his ass.
Yeah. So, just to say, this dude that I've known this dude since I've known him since I was 14, but we've really been guys since we're 16.
Mm.
and he's pretty much a movie encyclopedia kind of dude. So he pretty much.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. So basically, like he can memorize films and.
Let's stay on topic, shall we?
Yeah. Because we don't want to reveal some hidden stuff. Let's put that in the closet. So I think let's start first with
That's funny. You're gonna look funnier sucking my dick with no teeth.
Do you know how messed up that's like? Because when he said it, I actually imagined I was like, ugh. Oh god, yeah, that's this.
Look, Clancy Brown in this film.
And what's it called? You actually reminded me of another character that we didn't mention when we recorded the first time. The gay character.
Oh yeah, what the hell's his name? But begins with B. Boggs. The sisters, yeah.
No, because first we'll get it, because for me that was the first time I ever saw. That's the first time I ever knew that that's what happened to you in jail. So it was the first film that I ever thought, oh my gosh, this is what happens to you in prison, and that's as a guy just living in Nigeria and all that kind of stuff, that's traumatized me when I actually saw that, because I was like, wait, what? People do that to you in jail? So obviously no, but we'll get there.
Yeah, you were talking about Tim Robbins.
So Tim Robbins, the thing about Tim Robbins is, and this is the beauty of the film, is about great casting. Tim Robbins, I wouldn't call him one of the greatest actors out there. He's a good actor.
And he's not someone you think of as like a charismatic lead.
Oh, no. And that's the beauty about it, is like, if you picked like a very charismatic lead and so like that, it would detract from what the film is, because the key thing about it is there is a kind of energy that he evokes that is perfect for the character. Because,
and also it's almost like he affects us in the same way he affects the guys he becomes friends with in prison. In that, like, when you first see him, you're like, well, why this guy? Like, this guy's just like, he's not likable. Like, he's not someone we could get behind. But then you start, like, his deeper side comes out, and you like, he's eccentric and he's an outlier, but you grow to like him as an audience and along with the guys in prison.
Yeah. I mean, but you see, but would you say that that he has a likability about him when you first see him? Because
no, that's what I'm saying. Like, you go almost, you like him along with Red and the other inmates. Like, you go through the same process with them. Like, you sort of like have the same feelings towards him. Like, so whereas at the beginning, like, you think like, who is this cold, tall, just quiet guy? Why should we care about him or like him? And then, like, towards the end, you're feeling a lot of affection for him in the same way that all the inmates are.
Yeah, and I think because it goes back to the casting, because like it's not like, let's say if you'd cast like Robert Redford.
He's too grizzled and too like.
No, but not even that. Let's say you cast let's say if this film was made in the 60s and you cast Robert Redford, automatically you're like, yeah, he's the good guy. Yeah, he's the guy that will work and everything. But Tim Robbins just has almost like a neutrality about
and a vulnerability to him.
Yeah, so there's like a vulnerability. So where it's like you just feel, okay, now this just feels like a real character where he now has to do the work for us to really get on his side. We're not on his side from the get-go. So so the movie and the film, and he has to really do the work to really get him on his side. And I just think that the beauty of what Tim Robbins, does in this film and everything is like the way that he plays the role is very real. Nothing feels forced, and especially with the scenes, because again, at the heart, the heart of the film. See, I have to say, he has two key relationships with Red and with that devil of a warden, and obviously the real friendship and the real juice of it is his relationship with Red and how that grows, because again, it's not the way it's done. It's not cheesy. It's not overdone, and the way that their friendship grows, it's blossomed. Obviously, we'll get to Morgan Freeman on how he plays it, but I just like, because it's what I like about casting and about acting is don't almost like what's it called, like Oscar bait. people that are just really trying really hard to really, I'm really emotional, really everything. No, because you never really, it's almost like if you never really feel like if he's acting, he's just the character, and you're just lost in what is. So when he's going through the stuff and he gets screwed over by the warden, he gets screwed over by, well, he literally gets screwed and everything. You really feel it, because of just how real his acting and characteristics is. And I think, look, man, it's like, I mean, would you say that his performance was amazing? It was
Tim Robbins. Tim Robbins.
Yeah.
Thing is, it's like, yeah, it's not an Oscar. It's not a. You're not looking at a Daniel Day-Lewis where you're going away like, whoa, his performance. It's just exact. I think, and it's kind of a trend that goes through the whole film. It's exactly what it needed to be. Like, it's just perfect. It's not outstanding in the sense of just like, it like just blows you away and you're just like, whoa. Yeah. It's just perfect. Like, and that's really what the conclusion we're probably going to end up coming to is. It's just that it's just kind of perfect. Like, everything just works so well, and no one element like trumps another, like, overshadows it. Every, like, the story, the pacing, the characters, the acting, the writing, the music, everything is just perfect. They're all working perfectly in harmony.
Because it's almost similar to our conversation about The Matrix and with Keanu, where, like, Keanu was just perfect for what that role needed it to be.
Second perfect.
Yeah, I know. Donnie. No, when I say Donnie
Yen would not have been perfect.
Yes, he would. But in a different kind of film. But yeah, but it's like, man, imagine Donnie Yen as Neo.
No, because then it would just be a Donnie Yen film.
Okay, look, let's look, because trust me, we're gonna get into that whole rabbit hole there. But yeah, like, I just think that basically it is what is needed it to be, and it didn't take you out of the film because you didn't feel like, if this guy is really trying to get an act. It's like, yeah, I feel this Dufresne guy, this Andy Dufresne guy feels like
Dufresne? Sorry, I'm just imagining Donnie Yen as Andy Dufresne.
No, but look, Donnie Yen is actually he's actually a pretty good dramatic actor, man. So, no, I'm obviously, what is funnier is 80s Annie as Andy Dufresne. That would be really. See, now, if that happened, then it's a different film. So it's like, so that's why the beauty of the casting is very important. Well,
be on the outside. I was an honest guy.
That's what
Straight as an arrow. I had to come to prison to be a crook.
It's a different film, and Annie, God bless him, but yeah, it's a whole different film. So yeah, thankfully he wasn't in it. So Morgan Freeman, man.
Look, this is the film that started the whole thing of him being that guy who narrates everything.
Yeah,
because just like the way he narrates this is, again, so perfect. Like, there's so many instances of a narrator throughout a film. Like, I think we talked about it in Blade Runner. How in the theatrical version, Harrison Ford's narration just kind of is so awful and just really detracts from it.
Whereas, like I'll be real. Sorry to cut you off, but like, I'll be real with you. I don't think I've heard better or more effective narration in any film before, and I've watched a lot of movies with narration, especially.
Yeah, I mean, it's not usually done because it's kind of, it usually comes, like, it's very difficult to do right and like have it not be like really corny. Like, when I think of narration in a film,
especially, I mean, you especially those kinds of films where like you're going into the past, or it's like in an autobiography.
The only films I can really think of are like those sort of like family films where there's like a talking dog, and it would like, like Beethoven. I don't know if it.
But like, have you seen with that film that Tim Burton did with Ewan McGregor? Big Fish.
No, I haven't seen it.
Oh, you haven't seen it. Okay, yeah, it's like, for example, Big Fish. There's a narration in there because obviously he's narrating his life story. It's told when he was back in his younger days. But the thing about this is that, first of all, like, just Morgan Freeman's, his diction.
I mean, aside from just how soothing and just comforting his voice is, it's just like, yeah, it's just got the perfect quality of like you're sitting with like an interesting old guy who's just telling you his this really cool story.
But it's not like an old guy. See, but it's not like an old guy cheesy kind of thing. Like, oh,
Yeah, like
back in the day, I was like,
yeah, like, oh well,
no,
when
no,
I was, yeah,
like,
it's none of
that's
that.
like it's hard to explain. Like, basically, it's literally as if you're reading a book. So as he's saying the words, you can almost imagine how you're reading a book and you're really visualizing things in that book. 'Cause like normally you read those books where okay, you're reading it, but you can't actually visualize or see it because it's not either it's not written very well or you're not really engaged in the story. But just the way he says it, like, no, this is like when you're reading like a really good book where you really are encapsulated in the images that the writer is trying to illustrate through words. And the narration in this is critical to this film. Critical. Like,
it's just another element
away. Does the film still work?
Yeah, I've never thought of that actually, and that's not something we mentioned last time.
Yeah,
like, yeah, what would the film be like without Morgan Freeman's narration? Because yeah, Morgan Freeman's a lot more of a like.
Sorry, okay, go.
I was gonna say like because Andy Dufresne is almost like he's kind of okay. I don't want to say like a superhero, but as in he's kind of like abnormal in the sense of just like how competent he is and how much of a like how much he doesn't fit in to prison, and like Morgan Freeman is more of an everyman. Like he's just a popular guy who's like got connections, and so we kind of connect with him more. So it's like hearing him tell us the story. Like it would be totally different as well if like Andy was the one telling.
Oh my, that wouldn't work.
Morgan Freeman's like just kind of like he's almost like us or like someone we would. He's the person we sort of
like he'd be like our body, like our friend that we could connect with.
Yeah, whereas Andy's sort of he's the person who's setting the story in motion, and he's the one sort of that everything revolves around.
Because for me, I just think that if you take the narration away, it makes the Andy Dufresne character a bit harder to connect with.
Yeah,
because again, based on how Darabont wrote the script and how he presents the character, he doesn't really give that. There's not a lot of material for the character, and there's not really a lot that is really like pushed out there. So whenever he's doing stuff, it's embellished by the narration, and the narration makes us better understand the character. Because if you take the narration away, then it's like, okay, why should we root for this guy? Yeah. Okay, he's helped them build the library. Yeah. He's helping him pass his test. He helped them with get them like those cold beers and everything. But it's like,
yeah, because it's strange because in almost any other film you would think of the narration as a cop out. It's basically like, oh, you've basically been unable to have the film tell us this stuff through the visuals and through the characters and through just like the story. So you just need someone to say it, as in like that's a cop out. Whereas, but in this, it's almost like the film would be worse without it. So it's strange.
For sure.
Strange in that way.
For sure. So now, Morgan Freeman, man. Like basically, because I remember this quote that Brad Pitt said. I think Brad Pitt said, like these are like his three favorite actors. Was Sean Penn, Gary Oldman. Basically, the three gods of acting in his view was Sean Penn, Gary Oldman, and Morgan Freeman. I don't really agree with Sean Penn, but obviously Oldman and Freeman. I said that the thing that Freeman does very well is stillness, and this is something that I learned when I was doing like a short acting course. Because before I said that, okay, to act you have to basically be loud, big, show your eyes, and just be like boom, 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 boom. But what I learned is you act with your eyes, and stillness. And what Freeman does better than I think any actor in history is that you can literally look at him and he's literally not smiling. He's not moving his eyes, not moving his head. But you can tell exactly his emotions just through his eyes.
Yeah.
So in this film, I could tell how he's thinking. He's not very happy. He's pensive. He's reflective. And I think the best thing is the three interviews that he has for parole. Like when you just look at how different all those are, how different his mannerisms are, it's amazing.
Yeah.
You know?
And you don't really get that from Andy.
No.
Like he's almost like to us, he is a bit of an outsider. Like we don't really feel him as much as we do Red. Because Red just like, and it is, a lot through Morgan Freeman's performance. Like you just catch so much from him, like so many simple and complex emotions, like you said, just from his eyes, just from a little bit of how he talks and how he moves.
No, yeah.
Whereas Andy always seems kind of unreadable. Like, I mean, there are obvious moments where he's obviously distraught and obviously, obviously angry. Whereas but that's also his character. Like that, he's a distant guy. Like he's a very thoughtful and internal guy generally. And so it's almost like, we can't really read him.
No, and also remember,
like us,
he makes a point of that as to, he said that he blames himself for his wife.
Sure, yeah, that's a good point.
Because he was so distant, and because he was so detached.
But in fact, he even said, "My wife said I was a hard man to read."
Yeah. So that was just the point. So for a film like this, it's difficult for him to really be the heart and soul of the film, which is why even if he's the main character, the guy that really guides us and the heart and soul and the juice and the characteristics and the mannerisms come from the Red character, because he is very present. He's the opposite of distance, and also it's almost like that's how they say relationships and friendships work. Like opposites attract. Like these guys are totally different. Like different race, different social brackets, different financial brackets from totally different worlds, but somehow, maybe through prison, they were able to find a middle ground and form a very interesting friendship based on their difference. No, but yeah, for me, I just like those 3 parole interviews that Morgan Freeman has. I just think those are just amazing. Just how well he played all of those 3.
Yeah, and how differently each time.
Yeah, because almost like the second one, that's probably because the one that everyone likes is obviously the third one, obviously. But because it's so funny, after he comes out of the first one, and then he then says to the guy that, how hard did it go? Yeah, failed, and he says, I'm up for like rejection next week. So guys are just like expecting the rejection to happen. The warden, I think this guy's called what? I think Bill Gunson.
He was in Demolition Man.
Oh yeah, he was part of the crew that had. Yeah. Oh yeah. Good.
He was the police chief or something.
Yeah.
Film, though.
Yeah, man, very very chilling performance. Basically, him and Clancy Brown formed a very.
And I think this is something we talked about in the last one. Like, what a perfect villain he is, in that, like, just like everything in how he's built up, like. Because initially it seems like Clancy Brown is the really scary one.
Yeah.
Because
he's big, he's angry,
he's brutal, he's
imposing,
literally murders someone just for crying, and he's a monster. But you find out whereas the warden comes across as actually quite sort of civil and like. You could come to him and like he might be reasonable, and then when he comes to Andy first, like that's how he approaches him. Like he's warm and he's he offers him like a more comfortable just life generally in prison. But then when he's faced with losing Andy, that's when you see who he really is. Like that's when the veneer gets washed away, and that you see like he's much more of a monster than Hadley, the captain of the guard. And yeah, I think that's something we were talking about, like the idea of him, like, because he's all powerful in the prison.
Yeah, and that's the key thing. It's almost like on the playground, like the guy that has the power isn't the really big, muscly dude. It's the smaller, skinnier, more cunning dude. And the big muscly guy is always at the behest of the really cunning, smart, skinnier dude who really
sure, but in this sort of environment, like if we were to take like real world sort of equivalents of this sort of prison life in Shawshank, it's like being at a job or like being at school.
Yeah.
And the warden and the captain of the guard are just your boss or your teachers, and in that world they are God.
Yeah.
Or in the case of the warden, very much the devil. Which is what makes it so satisfying when Andy outsmarts him, and like in a way that feels like earned. It's not in a cheap way where it's just like, oh, I was gonna say a spoiler for something that came out recently, but but yeah, it feels really like it's so satisfying when the warden gets his comeuppance.
It shows great,
so powerful.
It shows great writing, because if the writing was garbage, you'd feel like, this is the cheesy thing when he gets the bad guy. But so much bad stuff happens, and such a tough, arduous journey is being taken, and there's so many setbacks that when he finally gets up, you're like, yes, it's ends, because we've been through, as an audience, we've been through so much crap throughout this film. Because when the warden gave him an extra month in the hole, I was like, what? Are you, excuse me? What?
That's the thing. Like, he's so cruel
and petty.
Yeah, and just like arbitrary, like just randomly, like vicious like that. And yeah, like when he orders, I can't remember the young guy's name.
I think it's Tommy.
Yeah, killing Tommy just so he can stay rich.
Oh no! See, that was basically when that happened. I was like, okay, now this dude is sick. This dude is sick, because now, like, I think that's where it's really crossed over, to where, like, okay, now this is now like really like, okay, like this guy is like a killer. Because like before the whole Tommy thing, I was like, okay, this guy's just a really bad guy. But when he ordered that hit, I was like, this is the lengths he's willing to go to protect his illegal enterprise. I was like, nah, man, this is messed up.
But he's just again another element of the film that just works really well. And also he's like, in a way, a kind of an interesting, almost like he's a lot more like Andy than anyone else in the prison. Like, they almost have like a camaraderie in that sense, in that they're both like sort of the most intelligent guys there. They're smart and they're reserved and they're generally soft spoken, compared to like all the the prisoners are generally like loutish and tough guys, like much like Hadley.
Oh yeah.
Like, just he's a tough brute. And obviously, like, Red is sensitive and smart, whereas the warden and Andy are like very smart and very like, they seem more like cultured and educated, and so it's interesting that they become kind of mirrors and foils for each other.
Yeah, I mean,
and like the warden ending up being the complete, like, obviously not as smart as Andy, and getting outsmarted by him, but very much also on just the dark.
I mean, but I just think like a key difference obviously is the whole how he uses the Bible as a smokescreen for his evil. I think
also Andy uses the Bible to hide things as well. Like, literally, as in he literally uses the Bible.
Oh yeah,
for his escape. So there's a nice parallel
there.
Yeah,
that's what I said. That's bro. So let's talk. So this character, it's Boggs.
Boggs, I think, is his name. Yeah, if I remember correctly,
bro. All right.
That guy's scary.
Like basically a very, very, very good performance by the guy who played him. I'm gonna try and
He was in Rush Hour.
yeah. We'll say Mark Ralston.
Hmm.
Mark Ralston. You see now, this was I don't know whether I watched. I think I must have watched prison films before. I think I watched Escape from Alcatraz when I was in my grandpa's place and everything. So I saw a few, but this was the first prison film that I saw a guy raping another guy.
I mean, you don't see it though; it's only implied.
Oh no! Sorry, basically, even implied. I'd never seen any prison film or anything of where a guy raped another guy, even if it was implied.
Mm-mm.
So when this happened, like literally, I was like, "My God!"
Yeah,
Like,
but it's become sort of like the standard procedure in any sort of like prison setting. Like it's usually joked about or implied to be happening.
Oh, yeah, no, but it's not just like my first experience. Like, oh, this happened, and just like because this guy was just sick. Because even when they meet him in the shower, he was like, "Yeah, hard to get." I was like, "God damn!"
I like that.
Oh man, I was like,
like I'm with you, but I would say like it's a little bit. What do you call it? Not cartoony, but it's slightly just like it's a bit exaggerated. I would say maybe. Like
in what sense?
As in just like how creepy and gross and sort of just slimy he is,
bro. Trust, like I've
Look,
seen
I mean,
documentaries, man. I've seen some
I've seen some documentaries,
you know, and there are guys like for me, like see, it didn't come because trust me, I know I've seen TV shows and everything where it just comes across as very cheesy and very thingy, but I've seen some stuff where because the thing about this is that I buy it because for a guy like that, like see, the thing about this is, and I think this is what I learned before. You see, for guys like those, they're not actually homosexual.
Oh yeah, well that's what Red says.
Yeah, like they're just sick in the head. So these are just very evil, messed up.
Well, I mean, let's not get too much let's not go too much down that road.
Oh yeah,
the film's not really about that in any way, and like
but just conscious to understand the psyche of his character and everything is that so just that character. And I think when that happened to Andy, you were like, okay, yeah, this guy's really.
And that's when that's when things really that's when things really turn around for him when that guy goes.
Yeah,
and that's when Andy becomes like. That's almost when like the story shifts because Andy he's now very close with his friends, and he's now become useful to the gods, and so now the story's changed.
Yeah, so basically that's basically using his smarts to his advantage.
Yeah.
Because without that, he'd be messed up. If it was stuck with that dude, man.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of what makes the film satisfying is that there's so many. I think just as audience members, we love watching people who are just really, really good at their job, who are just like better than everyone else. And I'm thinking of like Better Call Saul, for example, or even just Saul in Breaking Bad, who's like a complete slime ball, but one of the most popular characters because of just what a good lawyer he is. Like almost better than everyone else around.
He excels at his job. Yeah,
and just like you get that sort of like there's a real thrill in watching someone just be so good at what they do. And so it's just that whole sort of second act is basically just seeing how good you're just seeing how good Andy is at what he does and like how that just improves the lives of everyone. Like the prisoners get a better library, and all the guards are happy, and just everything is just going so well because of just how smart Andy is, and it's very satisfying.
Yeah, and also I think another thing as well is like I think again what we mentioned in the previous thing is that how he changes the whole atmosphere of the place, and I think that's as audience members or just people, we love that whole thing of like that. It's almost which is why you have like people call it the Obama effect or whatever. We like that whole that thing about this one person who comes in and is a maverick, that's
Mhm.
exciting, that lifts everyone up, and people just ask, and that's person and his energy permeates throughout whatever setting, whether it's be a school, like Jack Nicholson's character in One Flew Over the
Oh
Cuckoo.
yeah. That's
You know, like
a good comparison.
people just love that kind of thing. Or like the one that, like, it was really bad at one point, but this one guy came in and he
Shawshank even like
inspired people.
it kind of seems like a nice place to be in like the second act.
Yeah,
Like it seems like actually like quite, you know, it's quite fun.
and then this leads us to a key character and his trajectory, Brooks.
Oh yeah, Brooks, yeah.
You know, like
because I think one thing we should touch on is there's the whole comparison of like, well, sort of like for people who haven't been in somewhere like Shawshank. We were saying like how where we were watching this when we were at school in boarding school, and obviously with the environment is totally different, but in a lot of ways it's also very, very similar. Like, you know, you have to be in your room at a certain time. Like there are the teachers are the equivalent of the guards. Like you've got like everything is on a routine. Like, you know, you have breakfast at this time, then you have like your lessons at this time and lunch at this time, and you have to you know, often ask permission to take a piss, much you know, much like in Shawshank. And the whole like, so the way you sort of make friends and make bonds and the whole dynamic just feels very familiar. And I feel like that would be the same in like, you know, a lot of work environments and a lot of, it's another way that the film just is really good at just being universal. Because everyone can relate to that sort of feeling of just like being trapped somewhere that you don't want to be, but still in this just sort of like hopeless, dehumanizing kind of situation. You make these very human connections and have these really like special bonds that bring you through it.
Because like it's like the whole systemic thing of being routine and being systemized in like an institution.
Yeah, and so related to Brooks, it's that idea like, imagine if we had stayed in school as long as Brooks stayed in Shawshank. 50 years.
50 years.
Man's been in here 50 years. That's all he knows. And imagine that. Like,
you wouldn't be able to.
How would you like? So we've been in boarding school for 50 years, and like, so the whole and the way the world of that kind of environment, it's got its own rules. It's got its own hierarchies. It's got its own way of living and a way of operating that just doesn't translate into the real world. So how the hell are you supposed to? What are you supposed to do when you leave that? How are you supposed to have any hope?
No. It's that's the craziest thing, because on face value, like, prison is bad. You don't want to be in prison. The whole point is leaving prison. But what just flipped the script and just flipped my mind was that, oh man, for this dude, being free and in this sort of freedom real world was actually worse than being in an institution.
Yeah. So he's literally thinking of like committing a crime just so he can get sent back.
Which just shows it that like life isn't black and white. You know, life just isn't really black and white. That was just something that where he was institutionalized so much to such a degree, and he was so suited and ingratiated to this routine that now leaving this world to a world where things are completely and totally different. It's like just my human body can't recondition it itself.
And outside of just like what a sort of heartbreaking story it is for Brooks, it also, because of just how well it's written, it ties in with Andy and Red's relationship, because pretty much that's what would have happened to Red if he hadn't met Andy.
Yeah,
it would just been that cycle, and like, so then that ties into the whole like theme of the film of like, you know,
but
that hope.
No, I remember like watching it the first time. You don't know how terrified I was, man. When I just saw Red in that same room that Brooks was. And I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, if this guy kills himself, man, I'm just gonna snap this VHS tape." You know,
Yeah.
but yeah, sure, like, because remember, Red was a man of consequence. He was someone, and he was probably one of the most popular people in the prison.
Yeah.
In this thing, but out there, you're literally a nobody.
Yeah.
And you're black at that time. So
like his whole skill set is based around
the
getting things into prison, which just doesn't translate.
That has no bearing.
Like he even says, like, all you need is yellow pages on the outside.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the whole life he's been living has no relevance in the outside world.
And that is why, and that's just the key thing, because I think for Red, that's where you get that line of where he says that he says to Andy that, you know, like, hope is a dangerous thing. And like he just basically should just forget about this whole hope thing and everything, because he's lost hope already. Yeah. Because he's like, no, jail is where it is, prisons is where you are. You're never going out. It is what it is.
The thing is, though, now that I've thought about it, like, now that I'm thinking about it now, I almost don't think that hope is the real point. It's the real, like, salvation for the characters. I think it's the film is even really about hope. I feel like the film is more about friendship.
Oh, no, it is.
Because that's really what saves the both of them.
No. Like that's, for me, watching it again, the key thing, like, for me, like, in my view, there are two great films about friendship. Midnight Cowboy and this. You know, because, like, and I told, like, that is why that ending had to happen.
Oh yeah, well, we'll talk about the ending.
Yeah. No, but yeah, no, I mean, like, you see, hope is like the kind of like the way you could.
Yeah, see, now that we've said that, I think my thoughts might even be different about the ending than they were the last time we talked about it. Because it's really you know, Andy's ingenuity and almost luck are what get him out of prison. But it's like, and it's not really. Yeah, I mean, when we talk about the ending, we can get more into that.
No, for me, but I think 100% for sure. I think, I mean, we'll definitely get it. But I think let's just look at.
I'm thinking if Andy didn't have Red and, like, all the friends he made, like, how his situation would be so much worse. Like, he wouldn't be, like, sort of thriving the way he was in prison.
Yeah, no. I mean, like he'd, and
Red wouldn't be finding, like. It was through Andy that Red,
like, mental breakdown.
Yeah,
pretty much.
And it was through Red that Andy and it was through Andy that Red sort of was inspired to, like, I don't know, like, anyway.
Like, why did he tell Red, meet me at this place?
Yeah. It's because of their friendship and because of, like, what they inspired in each other.
That was the motivation for him saying to, because my thing is, now what I've not figured out is, when did he start chipping away at the wall?
As soon as he got the hammer. Probably.
Oh, okay.
Which was, like, really early on, but he wouldn't have started doing it properly till he got the Rita Hayworth poster, because he needed that to hide it.
Okay, yeah. So just touching on, just, like, you know, Frank Darabont and the writing, I think.
How long do we have, by the way? Because it still feels like we've got a few more things to cover.
Oh, no, cool, man. Do you know what I mean? Cool, don't worry. We're cool. So looking at Darabont's, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, obviously, like, it's obviously worth mentioning for anyone who doesn't know that this is based off a book.
Yeah. Have you read the book?
I have not read it, actually. It's a short story, and I think we mentioned the title is even more odd than this title for the film, which is just like the Shawshank Redemption, which is, the book is called Shawshank Redemption it's called Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption,
which is just madness.
Yeah. How the hell do you market that? But anyway,
what was it called? So was I going to say? So basically, have you seen Green Mile and The Mist?
Yeah.
for me, like again, for me, I feel this is definitely Darabont's like best film. But I think what you see in the Mist and in Green Mile, he is great at writing characters.
Yes.
Great. And the beauty about his writing is less is more. He doesn't overdo it, but you really get the idea of what the character is about, but just a few words that character says.
But also, especially relationships between characters. Like in Green Mile, you become so invested in that little crew of guards, and the relationship they have with each other, and also the relationship, of course, between Tom Hanks and John Coffey. And also in The Mist, like that's the best thing about the film, like all the drama going on
between all the characters,
between all the characters. So yeah, you're right. That's really true.
So I just think again, and I think the beauty about this was, and I think that because again, when I was watching this, I was like, but I said, wait, well, this is prison. Shouldn't it be a bit much more harsher, much edgier? Because obviously there's this prison TV series called Oz. And this thing is the most depressing thing I've ever seen in my life.
Because it starts out pretty depressing.
Yeah,
like with Andy, when Andy comes in, and then that guy gets just like
on the first one, and because they take bets as to who will squeal on the first.
Yeah, and then Andy, is getting harassed by the sisters, but then it just sort of takes this like upturn in positivity when he's like starts hanging out with Red and getting the guards on his side, but then it like massively dips again when Tommy gets killed and he's being like abused by the warden. But then it ends on such a positive high that it's like that's how you walk away from the film sort of feeling like that this was like a really positive, upbeat film.
Oh no, yeah. And I think it's just the vibe he created amongst the characters where like, man, these guys are like real buddies and real friends, and it's almost as if like sort of similar to how, again, nothing like prison, but there are similarities. It's not just like how, despite having whether it would be double chemistry, all these ridiculous,
somewhere you don't want to be, really don't want to be,
but we came up with, even in lessons, we came up with little games or little things to help us make the best out of what was a situation that we had no interest in being in at all.
That's again the universality, is that a word? The way the film just like could reach that anyone can relate to it, because it's so the message is so universal.
It's which is its universal appeal, which goes back to a point that we made and we both agree upon, that everyone can relate to friendship. And the value of friendship.
But it's rarely done well because you need such good writing and good chemistry between the actors.
I told you, trust me, I've watched a lot of films in my life. I can only think of two films where it shows great friendship, which is Midnight Cowboy and this film. I can't think of any other film.
It's the whole Cable Guy is all about friendship. Just want to be a friend.
No big deal. No, trust me, we will get to Cable Guy. Trust me, we will get a Cable Guy. So look, let's.
But yeah, Darabont, like. All I'd want to say about it is just like we've said earlier that one of the most unique things about this film is just like how everything works perfecly, and you've got to give Darabont credit for that, like helming this,
directing and writing it as well,
and also just like a nod as well to the music, because
Thomas Newman
soundtrack is just gorgeous. But again, as with all the other elements, it doesn't overshadow anything else. It doesn't
the right mood, the right aura, the right feeling.
Yeah. It's not even like a Godfather, which has like almost like a theme.
Yeah,
it's just perfect. It just
basically like it's not there. Like it doesn't, as I said, there's not a like din, 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 din. It's like, imagine if like every time you saw Andy Dufresne, it's like din, 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 din. It's like, no.
I mean, that would never happen, but it's still like it's a beautiful soundtrack.
Yeah,
but just one that doesn't call attention to itself.
No, and that just shows you really good composers, because again, I think you've seen Road to Perdition.
Yeah.
You see, he did that as well, and that has a very clear theme, like great soundtrack, but that has a very clear, precise theme. But he knew that for this film, I can't do the Road to Perdition thing, even if he did that like absolutely. But
even if that's actually
about ambience.
That's quite. I mean, it's a good film, Road to Perdition, but actually the soundtrack is one of the only things I remember about it.
Oh, Road to Perdition. Or like it's one of the most iconic, it's one of the most iconic soundtracks. Like, and that's the funny thing is like I remember the film being like, yeah, it's actually a pretty good cool film, but the soundtrack was just the thing that really sticks with you more than the actual film.
Yeah.
So looking at it was what's called the title. Now, obviously, when this film came out, similar to Blade Runner, it flopped at the box office. It didn't do well. And I remember this was the year. This was the heaviest. Basically, in this year was so the films that were nominated was this, Quiz Show, Pulp Fiction, and Forrest Gump. And of course, Forrest Gump basically clean accolades and everything. But the thing about it was the title of the film, I think, really damaged it.
Yeah, and like imagine if it was given its original title. So they even like shortened it from that.
Yeah,
try to make it something.
No, because I think like basically, if let's say it was called like Path to Freedom, Road to Freedom, that's more in line with what you're going into. But if let's say you're out with your girlfriend or whatever, and you're looking at the Shawshank Redemption, you're like, what? And you're looking at like a guy kneeling in the mud with his hands. You're like,
I think it's impossible to market as a cinematic film.
Yeah. I mean, because it's like, what are you like? What's the hook here? And I think because it's such a even for instance, can you cut a trailer that's best representative of the film? You can't.
No, not really. And also, it's one of those things that like, even though it's a film, obviously, I'm very like fond of and think it's a masterpiece. It's still not a film I'd really want to even watch in the cinema now. Like if they did like a re-release or something.
No.
It's such an intimate.
It's not a cinema film. No, it's not.
It's not a cinema film.
That's why, like, when I was watching the documentary, like, I think all the guys that were saying that, like, this thing was literally like the word of mouth king.
Yeah.
That every time, because I think it was Darabont that said that every time someone watched it, they recommended it to someone else. And when that guy watched it, he recommended it to someone else. So it was just like people just, as soon as they watched it, they said, man, you have to watch it. You have to watch it. And it's built that cult following where everybody recommended it to someone else to just form this chain of recommendations.
It is like, obviously I made a crude joke about it earlier, but the issue of it not having like literally any women at all in the film
that's crazy.
is also like it's strange because it's like I think as far as I'm aware, aside from Rita Hayworth like being projected on like with a scene from one of her films
and Andy Dufresne's wife,
but she doesn't say anything.
Yeah, she doesn't say
talking about lines like. So Rita Hayworth says some lines, but obviously they're not lines.
I think the woman in the bank say the line at the end.
A woman in the bank says like I'd be happy to or something. Like when Andy asks him, asks her to like add his thing to their outgoing mail. She says like I'd be happy to, and I think that's literally that's not. I'm not saying it's a problem. I'm not saying it's not a problem. I'm just saying it's strange.
Oh no. I mean, for instance, just going slightly off topic, but still similar. Like, I found out, in The Thing.
The Thing, yeah.
The whole cast is male. The entire crew was male.
The entire crew was male.
Yeah, so the crew, every single person involved in the making of that film was male.
Damn.
And I think people said it's created a certain kind of competitive vibe about it, or basically there's just a certain kind of vibe about it, just how where everyone was male.
But like, I just wonder because I'm actually trying to think like, how many girls or women have I asked about Shawshank, and like what do women think about this film?
Well, no, for me, I'd say again, I don't like obviously the women in my family obviously love the film 100%. But just think like women at large, I think most women watching this film, I think that they like it because I think the message, especially of friendship, is something that they'd be able to relate to.
Sure.
You know, and especially obviously when we talk about the ending and everything, I think that kind of basically, for instance, there's this film, although it's a bit depressing, Beaches.
Right.
It's with I think it's with Bette Midler and someone else, and yeah, basically it's about friendship as well. And I obviously I could connect with that film, but obviously not to the same degree as this. So I think for women can connect with this film, but not to the same degree as guys can. So even if I can connect to the concept of friendship in Beaches, I don't have the same kind of emotional connection as women will, because there are those nuances of female friendship that's different from the nuances with male friendship.
But I suppose with these sorts of, I mean, I suppose it's kind of an ongoing thing. But like you look at like a lot of the greats, like in quotation marks, but like say The Godfather is a very like male story, and this is a very like male-centric story, and you know, Citizen Kane and all the greats. But I suppose that's a topic for another. Discussion. But like, it's still interesting to point out that this is a film that's sort of universally loved, but it does still have that element to it where it's sort of missing an entire. I mean, it's sort of like expected as well because it's a prison film.
Yeah,
and that's how prison works. Like, as far as I'm aware, like the genders are segregated.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean,
why wouldn't
like, and I think especially in today's climate, that's very interesting, and I just want to know how people view that this film consists of all males, and and again, I don't think a female says any lines, if any, if there's just it's maybe one or two lines. I mean, that is
that one character at the end.
Yeah,
did you know that Rita Hayworth is Spanish?
Oh, as in fully Spanish?
Yeah.
Oh wow, I did not know that. But Hayworth is a.
No, that's a stage name that she was given. Her name's Margarita something. Can't remember her second name. But yeah, I'll tell you.
Okay, yeah.
It's actually a pretty interesting story about like how Rita Hayworth was packaged.
I mean, basically similar to the whole Martin Sheen thing of like don't if you use your Spanish name, you're not going to get any roles. So let's talk about the ending. So now, in case people don't know, the original ending for the film, Frank Darabont's ending, was with Red on the bus heading to go and see Andy, and then it fades to black.
With the last line being, "I hope."
I hope.
Like, so he's like, "I hope I see my friend again. I hope I get to shake his hand, etc. I hope I make it across the border. I hope." And then it ends.
So originally, when we spoke about this, because I didn't to see what you're going to say now, but originally when we did this recording, you said that you felt that you have preferred this ending.
I mean, it's not.
And I was like, hell nah.
It's not even that I would have preferred it, because I think.
No, sorry. I mean, sorry. Just before, just to let people know. So basically, that was the original ending that the Darabont had, and obviously, what happens before films are released is they get given to test audiences, who then can sort of give their views and everything. And pretty much, what was the overwhelming response from test audiences was they needed to see Andy and Red reunite.
Yeah.
So I think by the behest of test audiences, I'm not sure whether I think Darabont initially didn't want to have this ending because he wanted that ending to be, so that was what he wrote. This was put into it, but I think in hindsight, I think Darabont now appreciates that ending, now appreciates how much that ending means to people based on how powerful the film is.
And I think like my original thought on it was that the original ending would have been more powerful and would have tied more with the theme, which is a theme of hope, because it's like that's how it ends on a hope, like, and so it wouldn't have. It almost feels like, in the nicest way possible, like pandering almost to like show the two of them meeting up in like a happy reunion on the beach.
Yeah.
But whereas the original ending would have been like quite, it would have tied the film perfectly with the intended theme of the film. Whereas now that like we've talked about it a bit more and I've thought about it, I think the reason the ending works so well, the ending as it is now, and the reason why it's so satisfying, and the reason why it kind of feels like it should be there, or it feels like the worst you could say is not out of place, is that the theme isn't actually about hope. It's about it was always about their friendship. Like, it's and a friendship in general, and so that's why that ending as it is probably more appropriate, because the film was probably maybe even, I don't know, written with the intention that hope was the theme, whereas it's almost not really. Like, it's them, their friendship is the theme, the connection they have, and like how they build each other up and like make it better.
Because
so them meeting at the end is the perfect resolution to that.
Because like, see, hope is presented like it is. Hope is a thing that's then everything, but I think watching the film, the overwhelming feeling that I take from it is the development of their friendship, and how their friendship grows. So even if the crux of the film, plot-wise, is a man's hope of not giving up hope that he was wrongfully convicted, and his hope of breaking out of jail, and how dramatic that scene was, the arc of the film from the beginning to the end is how these people's friendship comes together. Hence why I think when audiences watch it, the thing that hits them isn't him breaking out of jail. The thing that hits them is their friendship. And for them, they're like, wait a minute, they're not going to meet at the end? No, this is not about hope. This is bloody put these guys together. It's about bloody friend. Like, look, based on the stuff that they've been through. He's been in this prison for this long. They've done all this stuff together. They've formed such a beautiful bond. They can to meet.
And it's almost like because Red getting out of prison on parole isn't. I don't know if it's on parole. I don't. It's as in like just being let out.
Yeah.
It's got nothing to do with hope. Like, in fact, it's almost like that he's lost hope because Andy's gone. So it's kind of like he's just kind of doesn't care anymore. Not even about like, oh, I hope, whatever. It's just like, look, I'm done. I've just got nothing. Like I've stopped giving up hope. I've stopped like hoping that you guys are gonna let me out. So like, look, fuck it, just do whatever you want.
And I think that was the key thing of why his third interview worked. Because he was like, okay, now this is just like real now. Especially once Andy left and he had time to pretty much reflect on his time and his crime. That's what that third interview was more genuine than his previous two.
And like Andy helps him, like, when he gives him that harmonica, it's almost like
like he only plays it once and then he
but it's I don't know, I'm getting a bit maybe reaching a bit here, but I'm feeling like that it's almost Andy's way. He's connecting with the young Red, because that's something Red said he only did when he was young. Like,
no, he is. That's precisely. And I think and it's good you make that point. I think that harmonica made him think back to his crime and his young self, because that harmonica makes him remind him of his young self, and I think he had never really fully reflected on the crime that he did. So once he had that harmonica, and he wanted him to remind him of his young self and everything, he was like, "Oh, geez, remember what I was."
But also, Red
was my mentality, my psychology. Oh yeah, what I was thinking during that crime and how I am grown and who I was then and what I am now.
Yeah, and it's also showing that because Red has told Andy straight up that he murdered someone.
Yeah,
that's why he's there. And Andy getting the harmonica is kind of like showing that he doesn't care about that. Like that not that he doesn't care, but that he's, he is, he's connected to Red for who he is. Like his young, like just who he is as a person matters more to Andy.
Yeah. Oh no. And I think which is why like what makes the friendship work is based on them. See, if they were not in prison, they wouldn't be friends.
Yeah, they would never have met.
Yeah, they never have met. And the beauty of the institution of prison is you're forced to be with people who you'd never meet in the real world.
Yeah.
And what you find is that person who is totally from a different social bracket from you and everything may actually share a lot of similar things with you.
Yeah.
And the people that you're with within your banking area, your office, your Fortune 500 company, you think they're your friends, but they're not really your friends, really. You actually want someone that's more real. But this is just the social circle that you're stuck with.
But I feel like there's also the parallel in that, like, when you're stuck in a work environment with people you might not necessarily have met any other time, that it kind of forces you to get close with them and bond with them.
Yeah. And I think that's sort of the points of
I think it's, yeah.
Which is what I hate, because I hate having to work with groups and people I don't want to work with. But I think that's the point of school. That's okay. Can you? And this is why they always put us in those group activities.
Well,
work together, blah blah blah.
Yeah, but that never works. Like when you're in, like, if they had gone to prison and they'd all been like forced to to socialize, then that would be different than the way it just naturally happens. But it's interesting as well. I just thought, like, you never, like, all the villainous characters, like Hadley and the warden. Like, these are characters you never see having any sort of friendly bonds with anyone. Like, the warden supposedly has a wife, but you never see him, like, having any sort of, like, relationship with anyone, like, except some people he uses. The guards, like, one time you see Hadley chatting with some of the other guards, and it's very hostile, and it's not friendly in any way. So it's like, it's interesting, or it's like, it works well that they're contrasted against those characters like that, because then they seem like less human. They seem like they're not a part of this, of the heart of this film, which is all the friendships going on among the inmates.
Well, no, just even something that just even dawned on me. So Hadley is the Clancy Brown character. I think because you see how harsh he is, and how sort of reserved some of the other guards are. Like that guard who, like, sort of like congratulates Andy on.
I'm not saying like all the guards are villains.
No.
All of them treat him.
Just Hadley specifically, of like, it's like setting the, because I always ask myself, okay, why do you need to be that harsh? Do you need to be that evil? But I think it's just one of those things of where, these guys have done a crime. It's obviously really bad and everything, and I think it's punishment enough that they're already stuck in prison and they have their freedom taken away from them. But the whole point of prison, is rehabilitation. The whole point of prison is that how can we create a society where we have people that don't do crime, and people that do crime, how do we help them to become better? That's the whole point of prison. So my whole thing is, because obviously there are many Hadleys in many prisons, 100%. My point is, does that actually help in rehabilitation?
I mean, I think that's a whole different discussion. Like, you get into like sociology, psychology. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't think either of us qualified.
No, because again, it's not even about being qualified or not. Because again, in my view, that I understand why he's there, because it's like, you're in prison and we need to make sure that people
and keep you in line and whatever.
Keep a tight ship, because it's your harsh. Anything that happens, boom. But my whole thing is like, the warden talks about how, and because he's holding the flipping Bible, something about how we are here to try and make you better people and people of God. Hence why he wants people to coincide and live by the word of the Bible. But my whole thing is that it's almost like he's a contradiction.
Yeah,
in the sense of what he makes Hadley do and what he makes Andy do. So
well, no, it's perfectly visualized as well in when the police come knocking at the warden's door, and the camera then zooms on this like verse from the Bible above his safe, which says, something about God's judgment coming. It's a perfect, like, it perfectly shows his hypocrisy.
Yeah.
You've been presenting yourself as this man of God when you're anything but.
Yeah.
And so now you're going to face judgment for that.
Yeah. So just to round off, based on just all the stuff that we've discussed, so do you now feel like if you sort of understand why this film is so great beyond its simple premise?
I think it's like we said before, there is so much about it that just works. It's almost like it's almost flawless in the sense that there's just nothing you can, there's very little to pick out that's wrong with it. It's like, it's a 10 out of 10 in the sense that, like, why would you take a point off? Like, what's missing? It's not so well crafted. It's just kind of perfect. And its message is just very universal, and it's presented with such like skill and talent, and it's just such a well-crafted story and a really beautiful film.
I think we're just jumping off the point that you made, and I think it goes back to Darabont of less is more. And it's almost as if there is not a single strand, shred, word, syllable, scene that is out of place. Everything just works perfectly, And even when I watched it again, having watched it for many years, I was like, okay, man, look, man, what is this about this bloody film that is also... By the time I get like halfway through, I'm just absorbed.
Yeah.
Because the pacing, how the story is presented, the atmosphere that it's created is just perfect, and it just pulls you in. And compared to other films that may be similar, that are about a guy breaking free, a guy changing himself, other things about friendship, this just does it effectively and it's concise.
Yeah.
Because some other films, maybe that it's okay. There's like a lull here. Too much is said here. This character is a bit too preachy here. This scene could have been taken out here. Just in this thing, every single scene is needed. Nothing more, nothing less. And I just think in that, and also it's a universal theme. And as we've said, and I think you hit this upon, hope is a message within it, but the key crux is Red and Andy's friendship.
Yeah.
And the relationship, which is reflected and expanded upon by the narration that Red has. And I think, look, I mean, like Morgan Freeman, man, I mean, it's like, for me, we'll obviously touch on 7, which I think is his best performance. But I think this is his second best performance, but I think this is his most iconic performance.
Yeah.
Like, this is what people will remember him for.
Yeah.
And bloody amazing the narration. I mean, that's just his voice, and it's because I think it's a mixture of his voice and the music, where it's a perfect balance between it's real with the kind of real stuff that is happening, but there's like an almost fantastic storytelling element about it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So yeah, man. That is it for our thoughts there on Shawshank. Again, if you've not watched the film,
well, we've spoiled it for you.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, we have. So yeah, look, man. Yeah, man. So we will be back again next week. For another thing of womb. And yeah, man. So any final words on the redemption of Shawshank from you? No, actually, I think, like you said, less is more when it comes to Shawshank. Less is more. All right, guys, it's been swell. Been good. Hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll be back next week for another classic deconstruction analysis of the film. Peace out. Stay true. Stay real.